So in the last lesson we went over cameras within Maya, and now we're going to talk about lighting. So lighting is very interesting in the way it kind of works and the way it really sets up your shots. So what I have right here is the same scene as we had in the last class. I already have a camera set up, so if I look at it right now, it just kind of looks like a nice shot right there. I'm going to go back to my perspective, and now we're going to talk about lights. So lights within Maya is pretty cool. We have a bunch of different options. We have ambient lights, which really just kind of gives a natural light that just kind of goes around the world and just kind of blows out from the area. So let's just talk about ambient lights. Let's bring one up right here. So let's just render this out with our ambient light. So our light is here. Let me actually render it through the other camera. So if we look at it right here, you can see my ambient light is kind of a little off to the side. So right here is a little brighter than this area. You can see that light kind of carries over to there. And it works out pretty nice if you want to just light a general area from all angles from this one spot. So let me save a snapshot of this. So I'm just going to save a snapshot. Let me close this out. And we're going to just kind of use the same camera and different lights to show you the general different ideas of it. So let's go create a new light and start with a directional one now. So a directional light, if we look at it right here, it's kind of a couple of arrows. Let me zoom in on it. Move this over here. So, oops, did not want that. We've got a couple arrows, and this is basically saying that light is coming in from this direction, going this way, like a sheet of light. Super cool if you want to do like really interesting shots from light coming from that direction. So if you had like a bunch of lights kind of coming in, you put it through there. Let's see how that looks. So open this back up, render this new one out, and you can see the lights kind of coming in from this side. Let's take a snapshot and just compare the two. So that's with the ambient light. There's the directional light. So you can see the direction of the light is coming in from this angle, kind of going towards this area right here. So that works out pretty cool. Let's get rid of that. So the next one we have is a point light, which is essentially just a little light where all of it is coming together into it. So let's bring this one over here just to kind of get an idea where we're going to put it. So let's say right here. Let's render this one out. So here you can see it's a lot more focused. You can see the light fall off is really abrupt. You can see how dark it is over there. And comparing to the other ones, you can see how focused this light is. Really good depending on what type of mood you're trying to set. Let's get rid of that one. And next we have is a spotlight. Spotlights are really fun to work with. So they work pretty much the same way as a spotlight would in any production. So what it will do is, let me render it out. It will actually put as if a spotlight will be on there. So you can see that circular pattern or that circular area of light. And if we ever wanted to, we could always go and adjust these types of things. So like, let's just say I want to increase my cone angle to, let's say 3, re-render it, and you can see how it lowers it. So like, let's just say if I change my cone angle to 400, it widens out a lot and it should light the entire area. You can still see where it cuts off a little bit, but it's lighting that whole area depending on the cone angle itself. The cone angle will only go to like 180 though. So it really depends on what you're trying to do with your lighting and how you want it to come off. You could also add shadows to it later on, but we'll talk about it later. So Did I save this one yet? No. Okay. Let me just save that just to be safe. The next light we'll talk about is an area light. Area lights are kind of interesting in the sense that it's just light coming from this specific area. There is a little bit of a piece sticking out like that, basically acting as where it's pointing. So if I go and render this one out, it's a lot softer and it makes for really interesting renders if you want to go for like a really darkened area and set it like that. So that one's pretty cool. And the last one we'll do is a volume light. So volume lights work in a very odd way, and it really kind of puts off, let me see if this one puts off like a very focused part of light to the sense where you can't even see it in here because I don't have it set up. We don't really use volume lights that often though. But one thing I'll show you is let's go with a new directional light. And I'm gonna go in, just put it over here. Let me see, render it. So that looks pretty good for directional light. So all I have right now is a directional light in there. And I'm just gonna use it for this example in working with how it shows. So the directional light we have right now, we have tons of different things we could do with it. We could change the color of it. So let's just say I want it to be 230 red, 1 green, 1 blue. That will change the actual color of the light itself to give me a red light. So if like I increase this to like 30, it'll add 30 of green. And we'll end up with like a yellowish color. If I add, let's say 45 of blue, we should end up with this pinkish white color. So you could change the color of your lights however you want. If you just leave them at 1 each, it will just do it as a white light. We could change the intensity of it. So let's just say I change this from 1 to, let's go with 10. It should show a much brighter light. So that's how we do it that way. We could even change the shadow color. So like, let's just say if I did 230 and render it out, you should see, you don't really see too much of it here. Let me raise it up to a little bit of red so you can see the shadows. But it just kind of adds a little bit more redness to the shadows, or whatever color you want to work with. You don't really need to mess with that too much. So we have depth map shadows. So like if I turn this on, what it will do is you'll see a lot more shadowing to it. They don't really work too well. It really adds a lot of weird ghosting effects. So I wouldn't recommend using it. And everything else we're not going to really touch. But each camera has their own pretty much presets or sets for them. I mean lights. So like if I put in a spotlight, we have like things like the cone angle, the penumbra angle, things like that. And it's really just good to kind of mess with these lights to get a very interesting look. So like let's just say I still have that directional light in there, and I added a cone light. Let's combine the two together. You add a lot of interesting things to it. And this is only working with Maya software. We have more lights that will work with in Arnold. So we'll talk about that when it comes to Arnold in the next lesson. Thank you.